Hey everyone, welcome to the Mental Playbook with Christine Dalgety. We're here to chat about all things mental health, share some awesome stories, educate, and advocate to break stigmas and gain power through knowledge for all ages and walks of life, and give you the tools you need to boost your mental game. So grab a coffee, get comfy, tune in, get inspired, and let's dive into some fascinating conversations. Remember, your mind is super powerful, and with the right tools and knowledge, you can master your mental playbook. And while you're doing that, take care of you. Hey everyone, Christine here. Welcome to the Mental Playbook with Christine Dalgety. Today, we're going to talk about mental health with busy minds, finding balance in this fast-paced world that we live in, and going to learn about the different stressors that we experience in the society that we're living in today, how we can recognize the signs of overload and burnout, and some strategies, not only strategies for short term, but in maintaining our mental health, and then long-term resilience and long-term balance. And a little bit about what this stress is doing to us and how it can impact our mental health. Our work-life balance is a big contributing factor to our busy minds and this fast-paced life that we live. According to Stats Canada, as of April 2023, 4.1 million employed Canadians, that is 21.2% of the workforce, reported high or very high work-related stress. And the most common aspects of that, heavy workload, was 23.7%. And struggles with work-life balance was 15.7% of those Canadians, the 4.1 million Canadians. And not surprising, right? Healthcare and social assistance sectors were the highest, with 27.3% reporting high levels of stress and tension. What are some of the challenges of a busy life? Some of the common stressors. We busy people, and that's most adults nowadays, and children. Busy people juggle a variety of different stressors, and they quietly pile up. So an analogy that I use with my clients is we carry this backpack around. And that backpack, whether it's trauma that we're building up, whether it's life stressors, situations with people that we care about, every time, so I'll use the stressors of busy life. Every time we have one of those stressors, it's like we put a rock in our backpack and we just keep carrying it around and we just keep putting these rocks in because they quietly pile up. It's not usually one big thing. We put those rocks in and eventually that backpack gets way too heavy to carry. And we either need to start taking some rocks out, or we need to take the backpack off or have someone help us carry it. And often we go it alone because part of this society is that it's a sign of strength if we can juggle it all and keep going. So some of the most common stressors, work overload. So tight deadlines, long hours, high expectations can lead to a lot of tension, chronic stress, and burnout. A lot of us don't know how to leave work at work. Or we have employers that don't think we should. And we carry that with us. We have strict deadlines that have to be met. And that's all part of working, of course. However, when we have a lot of deadlines that need to be met and we're not able to manage all of that and we just keep trying to do it without help, that's going to lead to chronic stress and burnout. A lack of a work-life balance. Struggling to carve out time for personal things, carve out personal time amid all of our professional limitations, our professional demands. We need to have boundaries around our professional life. And sometimes we may have to take some work home. Sometimes we may get an urgent email that we need to attend to. But usually we don't need to do that. For me, I run a business. I have employees. And so often my boundaries, my work boundaries might be, they are different than what I expect of my employees. And recently I went on vacation with my family in March, and I had my laptop with me, and it was questioned why I had my laptop. And I said, because I have to work. And I was told that it was my vacation. And my comment was, when you own a business, you don't actually take full vacations. That being said, I still set my boundaries. I still have that work-life balance. So while I was on vacation, I'm an early riser. So I get up in the morning, I check my email, I check scheduling, I look at things, I send the emails I need to my client care coordinator and the lead psychotherapist that's running the place when I'm not there, and then I shut my laptop. And then at night, sometimes, depending on what we were doing beforehand, I will open up my laptop and I will check again. Those are my limitations. I am not answering emails during the day. I am not corresponding with people unless it is an emergency because of the nature of my work. And on the weekends, I do not answer emails on Friday nights. I get up Saturday morning, I get up Sunday morning, I work, sometimes doing the videos and stuff for social media. I am working a little bit more on the weekend. But if there is a family function, if I am to do something with my friends, if I just want to spend the afternoon on my deck, that is what I do. Work-life balance. So many of us do not do that, and that causes chronic stress and burnout. Financial pressures, managing bills, debts, trying to save for the future. In the economy that we live in right now, groceries alone, everything is so much more expensive. Rent, housing, everything is so much more expensive. I buy groceries for one person, and I usually buy the same things. And my grocery bill in the last year or two has doubled, and that's for one person. So I, often say I can't imagine for a family of four with growing children, right, or more, that are eating more and that sort of thing. And I eat healthy, and sometimes I look at something that's prepackaged and it's cheaper, and I'm like, And so if I had, a big family, that's often what happens, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And family responsibilities. So caring for children, caring for aging parents, caring for both sometimes, navigating relationship dynamics, trying to manage the household. And another thing that has changed and is part of our very busy lifestyle that we now lead is the amount of activities that a lot of children are in. And some of this is judgment from other people. Some of this is, that keeping up with the Joneses type thing. Sometimes we just want to give our kids everything. When I was growing up, I have 3 siblings, and we were all involved in sports and sometimes some other activities. And my mom managed to get to everything, but we were also spaced out, our ages, enough that I think it was a little bit more manageable. But we would, in the summer, I would play soccer and fastball. In the winter, I would play ringette. We didn't have girls hockey back then. I would play ringette, and then high school sports or, school sports. And same with my siblings. Nowadays, I hear about one child is in art classes and music classes and taekwondo and community basketball and hockey and soccer all at once at times. And, no judgment if that's what you want to do. That is leading to our fast-paced, always on, trying to juggle all of that while doing all of our other responsibilities, and then the financial with that too. Also, what has increased with social media and family responsibilities is the judgments that people put, and it's usually over social media. We talk about keyboard warriors, but the different judgments when I see my son and my daughter-in-law raising my grandchildren, and even when, they were babies. And I remember saying to my daughter-in-law, I am so happy I'm not raising a child right now, because we would get it from our grandparents, our grandmothers, or our mothers. Oh no, you need to do this, you need to do that. And that's fine. It was guidance. Nowadays, it's like, what? You don't have a wipe warmer? Or, all of these things that you need to only feed your child this, or you need to do it this way, or you need to raise your children how you see fit. But those judgments add extra pressures You need to have, this and this and this for your child that costs money that you may not have, but it's something that you need to have now. And that's more pressures on family responsibilities. Health concerns. The one thing that happens when we're feeling stressed out already, when we're living this fast-paced life where we feel like we don't have time in a day, my son said to me one day, Mom, I feel like I wake up in the morning and then it's 10 o'clock at night, right? And that's how I feel like that daily. And a lot of people feel that way. And what goes first? Our health, both physical and mental. My sister and I have conversations because she is the other half of Dalgety Wellness Center. So we have Dalgety Counseling and Psychotherapy, and her side is the physical health, Dalgety Resilience, which has personal training, like a boutique type gym, personal training and small classes. And we have conversations that often when the reasons people are canceling that sort of thing is, I'm so busy, I just need to take a break from it, right? I don't have time. I have all these work challenges. I have all of this. So they're not seeking their mental health appointments and they're not seeking their physical health appointments. And then we have what I had talked about for financial reasons, but also for convenience sake. I am working late hours. I've got to go home and I have to get the kids to hockey and I have to get the kids to here. And so what do? I go to McDonald's drive-thru. Right? Not me personally, but that is what people do. For me, when I'm really busy, I might run home and, sorry, my son is calling me. For me, if I have a late night and I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm tired, I might run home and throw something in the microwave, right? So food that is not high in nutritional value, not moving, not helping our mental health is going to cause further burnout and chronic stress in this fast-paced life that we're living. Decision fatigue. People don't know about this. We are making decisions, a lot of decisions daily if we are living in this fast-paced environment. And there is something called decision fatigue. I experience that sometimes. Again, running a business and having employees and making decisions and doing the job that I do, working in anything that you're doing, that you're making all these decisions. If you have children and you're making decisions of what's best for them and where to take them and what time to do this. And I get to a point where if my friends are planning something, I'm like, tell me where to be and what time. I don't care what we do. Tell me what I need to wear. I don't want to make a decision. Something as simple as, do you want to go to this restaurant or this restaurant? I don't care. Make the decision for me. That's decision fatigue when we can't make those decisions anymore. And a little later on in the podcast, I'm going to talk about what happens in your brain and why that can, the decision fatigue can increase. Digital overload. We are a fast-paced, always on, instant gratification society. We are always on. We are always connected. Kids are always connected to their peers. They're always connected to devices. So are we. And that makes it really easy to get your emails, even see those emails from work that you're like, oh, okay, maybe I need to. Social media, text messages. How many times are you engaged in a conversation with somebody and a text message comes through and you are no longer focusing on what that person says because all you're thinking about is, I need to answer that text message. If it is not an emergency, why do we need to answer it? Because that's the way we're being conditioned. That's the busy mind. I often suggest to my clients, have ringtones for people. So have a special ringtone for your kids. That might be a text that you do have to attend to. So put your phone down. If it's that ringtone, say, excuse me, it's my kids, right? Or spouse or a sick parent, whatever it happens to be. But if we have those ringtones, then we can filter some of it out. Nobody should expect you to answer a text message right away if you're in the middle of a conversation or if you're busy. To add to all of that, we all have Or most of us have these watches, smart watches that, I just put my phone over there, but now it's on your watch. So we're always connected. And again, that goes to what I was talking about with the judgmental parenting, right? On social media. It's always there. That kind of thing triggers the busy mind. But then you add in the things that we see on social media and, the state of our world, different things that happen that we see in real time, different social media things when it's just one, doom scrolling, right? It's just one dooming factor after another. And that gets people perseverating or ruminating. It's always kind of there, that negativity, and that is going to increase the busyness of your mind. These stressors often overlap. So usually we don't have one of these stressors. And I'm sure that when I was just naming them, talking about them, you were probably going, oh yeah, oh yeah, right? We have, if not all of these, overlapping a lot of these, depending where you are at in your life. If you are moving through your career, you have social media, or you have a phone, there's two of them right there. If you are an adult, then you have the responsibilities, the financial stuff. So they overlap, and compounded cause even more chronic stress and burnout. So those are the main stressors. And if we want to talk about how they impact our mental health, I first want to just do a brief, I'm not going to go into detail. I do this with my clients in the second session, and I talk about the stress response and what it does in your brain and your body. And so I just wanted to do a brief explanation of it so that when I talk about the impacts to our mental health, you can see how it's connected to the stress response, because chronic stress and burnout means that it's not a stressful situation. It is every day. And what I say to my clients when it's chronic stress and burnout is, it is like you are being chased by a bear 24/7. What's going on in your body and your brain. So the stress response, parts of your brain, and I'm going to name some of them, but you don't, within the limbic system. So you have your, the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, the amygdala, hippocampus, prefrontal cortex. All of these parts of the brain are activated in the stress response. And when that happens, when it says they think we're in danger, it doesn't have to be a real danger. Your brain can't distinguish between dangers. It can't say, this is a busy life. This is a lot of stress that I have with different aspects of my life. It's not life or death. This is a danger that I could die from. It can't distinguish that. So when it's activated, right away, adrenaline and cortisol are released in your body. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes more shallow. Your blood pressure can go up. You get that tingly feeling in your head, that lightheaded feeling. Your body temperature can go up. We start sweating. You start to feel weak, shaky, because your muscles start contracting to make you feel or appear bigger. Your digestive system relaxes so that we get rid of everything in our body, because your brain doesn't want you to focus on the energy into that. It wants you to focus the energy into the muscles that are going to help you fight back or run. And your pupils dilate to let more light in so that you can see better, and things appear louder and more acute. And your prefrontal cortex, which is executive functioning, shuts down, and emotional regulation is part of that, and it shuts down. So you're not able to make decisions, because prefrontal cortex is rational thinking, decision making, the processing, the thinker part. And so you're not processing what's going on. You're having difficulty with that. You can't regulate your emotions. And then fight or flight. So think about all of that stuff that's happening in your body, like this, for a stressful event, is happening all the time. It's like you're being chased by a bear 24/7. So with that, some of the mental health consequences that come with chronic stress, anxiety, and depression. So prolonged stress floods the body floods your system with adrenaline and cortisol. That can disrupt mood regulation, emotional regulation. It can increase the risk of anxiety disorders and depressive disorders. One thing I want to touch upon too is that chronic stress, it doesn't just wear you down, it actually rewires your brain. Okay, so keep that in mind. And if you think about the stress response and what is happening, yeah, it's getting rewired. Burnout, emotional exhaustion, cynicism, reduced performance in work, in school, all of those are hallmarks of burnout. It's more than just being tired, okay? And these, especially in high demand environments. Burnout is more, and I'm going to talk about the difference between just being, I don't mean just because we're very busy, but being busy and burnout. But burnout is like a full body shutdown of motivation and joy. And cognitive difficulties. So I said that your prefrontal cortex shuts down, and that's processing the thinking part of your brain. So cognitive difficulties with chronic stress arise. We have a hard time concentrating. We have a hard time focusing, making decisions, processing situations. The chronic stress can actually shrink parts of your brain. So prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, that's the memory center of the brain. So then we get more forgetful. We can't retain stuff. And I always joke with clients that, when we get overwhelmed and we're feeling burnt out, the brain kind of filters out stuff it doesn't think is important and we don't remember it. And it's usually the stuff we want to remember, and it keeps the stuff we don't care about so much. But sometimes, if you think about it, the stuff you don't care about so much is easier to keep in there than some of the high level stressors. Sleep disturbances. So stress can make it really hard to fall asleep or stay asleep. And we literally heal physically and mentally, memory, in our sleep. We need the stages of sleep. We need to have a consistent time for sleep, because that allows us to move through each stage, which has different healing qualities to it. We need that deep sleep. And if you are waking up all the time, it takes a while to get into the deep sleep. So we need all stages, but I'm just saying to move through this, you move through a pattern of stages of sleep. So if you're not falling asleep, or if you can't stay asleep, that means the cycle starts over again. And then emotional dysregulation. So I said that the emotional regulation part of your brain is also impacted with the stress response. If it is chronic stress, you have heightened irritability, mood swings, difficulty managing emotions, and that resilience part of your brain, the emotional regulation part of your brain, is kind of hijacked by the stress. It hijacks the brain's ability to self-soothe. Those are impacts that chronic stress have. And this is a continual thing. Like I said, the stress response is often triggered for times of like high-level stress. Chronic stress is this consistent pattern of stress. So these things are happening. That stress response and those impacts are happening. And that's the backpack. When we can't regulate our emotions, we can't sleep, we can't think, we don't feel like doing anything, we can't feel joy anymore. So I think it's really important for us to recognize the signs of overload. And I want you to really listen to these signs so that you can see how they're maybe influencing your life right now. I don't know many adults that aren't experiencing a lot of what I'm talking about right now. That is a common thing that we see in our office, and it's a common thing that I see with my friends, myself, everybody. So psychotherapists or therapists, counselors, we kind of put this, it's like a checklist in 3 different categories that we put for the signs of overload. And those are mental and emotional functioning, physical and behavioral signs, and social and functional signs. So within the mental and emotional signs, there's persistent sadness, hopelessness, emotional numbness. A lot of my clients will say to me, I just feel numb. I don't really feel anything. I just feel numb. There's excessive worry, fear, or panic, feelings of panic. So remember, these are all signs of overload. Mood swings, irritability that feel out of proportion. So one thing I say to clients is, does the behavior or the emotion fit the situation. It's kind of like, does the punishment fit the crime? Is that reaction, that emotional reaction that you just had, that emotional behavior, is that, or that emotion, is that disproportionate to what the situation is? If it often is, that is a sign of overload. Difficulty concentrating, remembering, making decisions is another social emotional sign. And feeling disconnected from reality or oneself. So that is not, some people might associate that with like dissociative identity disorder or schizophrenia, that kind of stuff. That's not what we're talking about here. How often do you say to yourself, I feel like I'm a robot. I feel like I'm just going through the motions and I'm not really present in it. Or you get home and all of a sudden you're like, did I stop at a stop signs? Did I just go through a red light? I don't remember my drive home. That's what we're talking about. Okay. Not being connected with the reality or yourself in space. And then some of the physical and behavioral signs. So changes in sleep patterns, insomnia, or sleeping too much. We hear about both. Usually it's insomnia or waking up throughout the night. But sometimes we have clients that say, yeah, like I slept 16 hours yesterday. That sort of thing. Appetite changes. So you don't feel like eating anymore, or you just can't stop eating, that comfort food thing. And significant fluctuations in weight. That's another sign. Low energy or chronic fatigue. You can't, you have no oomph, right? That's how it's described sometimes. You're so tired all the time. That chronic fatigue, no energy or very low energy. Neglecting personal hygiene and our appearance. Sometimes people say, how could somebody not bathe? When you are overloaded, when you are experiencing this chronic stress, I hear sometimes, I didn't even brush my teeth for 4 days, or I haven't shaved in a week. I haven't taken a shower in the past week and a half. And it's a thing, right? That takes energy, and we don't care anymore. We're emotionally, mentally exhausted. So when those things start to happen, I had one client had to put reminders to brush her teeth and take a shower because it was that going through the motions thing and the energy that it took. The next one, increased use of alcohol, drugs, or other maladaptive coping mechanisms. So I call those STIRBs. And short-term energy releasing behaviors. And I learned that from the grief recovery method that I was reading up on. These are behaviors that we use to cope. It's maladaptive coping. They're called short-term because they're things like alcohol, drugs, sex, eating, exercise, sugar, video games, things that boost dopamine, make us feel good in that moment, but they're not sustainable because they often become addictions. Shopping is another one. Retail therapy, we call it, right? They either become addictions or they increase that cycle of stress because let's say it is shopping, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to buy this and this. Online shopping makes it so easy now. And then we feel remorse because we just spent money. And remember, I said that another thing that can cause chronic stress is financial strains. So then we start to feel bad. So then we have negative energy. What do? We shop because it increases dopamine, right? So that is why we also call them short-term energy releasing behaviors. One tip for that, for online shopping, I myself, I do enjoy online shopping, but I have a 24-hour rule. I will put something in my cart and I cannot hit buy unless it's an essential product, like if I'm getting groceries or something, but I cannot hit buy for 24 hours. And often when I come back to it, I'm like, yeah, I don't really need that. So people around me often hear, oh yeah, I have that in my cart. I just said it. here when I got here today, I have something in my cart because even though that one isn't essential, I have some other things in my cart that I just felt like buying. So when I go back to it, I usually say I don't really need that. So that's a technique to try, just a little tidbit throw in there. And the next is social and functional signs. So when you start to withdraw from your friends, your family, activities that you used to enjoy, that is a clear-cut sign, right? That's isolating yourself. When you see a decline in work or school performances, your performance in work or school, that's a clear-cut sign. If it's something that, if you were somebody that really worked hard and everything, then all of a sudden you see this decline, it could mean that you're withdrawing from it. It could mean that you're having a hard time concentrating or processing the content of what you're to do. Avoiding responsibilities. So all of a sudden, home responsibilities, the grass is growing, the house is a mess, you haven't gotten groceries, laundry's piling up, and you're trying to find clean clothes because you don't really have any, those kinds of things, or daily tasks that we wouldn't even think about before, all of a sudden they become overwhelming. You're burning out. Difficulty maintaining relationships, where you're just at a point where it's like, it's too much work. I don't even want to maintain this relationship. I just want to avoid it. It's too much work. And I'm not talking about difficult relationships, that people that are very difficult and you just need space. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about maintaining your relationships seems like too much work. And you also have difficulty setting boundaries. If you just don't care, what I say to clients, I think it might be a Terry Clark song. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's I say to clients, it sounds like your give a damn's busted. Right? It sounds like your give a damn's busted, and that is a song, my give a damn's busted. And they're often like, yeah, that's it. Like, I just don't care. That is a clear-cut sign of burnout and feeling overloaded. And then expressing feelings of worthlessness or guilt. Guilt is a big emotion. It's an emotion that many people feel. I call it the G word because the definition implies an intent to harm. And if we are just setting a boundary or feeling a certain way, we don't need to feel guilty about that because we're not trying to harm anyone. So those are the 3 categories for recognizing the signs of overload. And I just want our listeners, our audience, to just pause and reflect on some of those and ask yourself, am I experiencing any of those symptoms? Are these symptoms showing up in my life? And if they are, we need to start unpacking the backpack. We need to start taking some rocks out of there. So just pause and think about that. So now I'm going to talk about three different segments on managing. So we're going to manage the busy mind. We are going to manage our stress going forward, and then ways to build resilience and long-term balance. So 3 different things. Some of these, I'm just going to, disclaimer ahead of time. Some of these are overlapping. Some of these are repetitive, some of the strategies. That's okay. I am going to say them with each category because they're a little bit different in, if we are just trying to calm the busy mind, it might be a short-term thing. If we are trying to build long-term resilience and balance, then it becomes a pattern of daily living. So just bear with me if some of them are repetitive. I think everyone's probably seen that meme, and I've used it myself, and I've heard a lot of people say, a busy mind is like your browser on your computer, internet, and all the tabs are open. There's a lot of tabs open. And that is my brain. I often have a lot of tabs open. But, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, we close tabs on our computer. We, most of us at night or during the day will clear the apps on our phone. Because if we don't do that, it's taking up power. It's draining the battery or data because they're constantly running in the background. So think about that in terms of your brain. If we don't manage some of these, they're constantly running in the background, even if we're not focusing on them. So different strategies, different ways to kind of calm that noise, that background, that mental noise, and restore our clarity. Again, it's in different categories, but let's look at some mindfulness and some grounding. Mindful breathing. There's so many different ways we can breathe. I'm just going to share a couple. Actually, I'm going to share different ones for each section, but mindful breathing is just, focusing on slow, controlled breaths, deep breaths, belly breaths, diaphragm breathing. You've probably heard all those different terms. When I do mindful breathing, which I do in between every client that I have, so I can clear my mind, I do it before I go to sleep, and I do it when I wake up, so that I am clearing my mind before bed and I'm getting ready for my day and starting my day at a level 1 instead of a level 3. The way I do it is I close my eyes and I try to connect my breath with my body. And when I am inhaling, and I do 3 breaths. And so I inhale until I can't anymore. And I really feel my stomach, the way my stomach goes, the way my chest goes. And then when I exhale, so I inhale until I can't anymore. And then I exhale and I really feel how my body changes with the exhale. Some people picture a balloon, right? Do whatever you need to just connect with it and be mindful with it. Another strategy you can try is 4-7-8 technique. And with the 4-7-8 technique, we inhale for 4 seconds, we hold for 7 seconds, and we exhale for 8 seconds. So you can try that. One thing I also say is practice it. I know it's breathing, but practice it, because as humans, we are horrible breathers. The amount of times we hold our breath, if I had a monitor on you and you saw how often we hold our breath, it's crazy, right? We hold it a lot. We breathe shallow, in a shallow manner sometimes. By doing this, it's regulating your breathing throughout your day. Also, part of the stress response I said is shallow breathing. If you regulate your breathing and you do it mindfully, you are regulating the stress response during the day, hence calming your busy mind. Body scan meditation. What we want to do with this is it's not like progressive muscle relaxation. It's just body scan meditation. We're going to close our eyes and we're going to focus on each body part, right? Just bring awareness to it. Understand what it's feeling, aches, pains, stress, whatever it happens to be. And we're just going to release the tension as we go through each body part. Start with your feet, go up to your head, and then back down. Hopefully, on the way back down, you don't feel as much tension because you've already tried to release it. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. That is 5 things you see. Focus on 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, touch-wise, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell or like the smell of, and 1 thing you taste or like the taste of. When you're doing the visual part, I often suggest to clients to focus on the visual thing. So if I'm, 5 things I see, if I'm sitting here going, a microphone, a camera, some books, that's not mindful. So mindful, that's more mindless, right? It's just kind of rehearsing them or reciting them. So it would be like, if it's a poster you're looking at, what are the purple words? Pick out colors. What are the red words? Read the certain things. Really pull out. I see a blue ball. I see a turquoise tablecloth, right? Describe it like that so that it's more mindful. Mental decluttering. So here's a strategy that is kind of fun. It's called a brain dump. And when your mind is so busy and full and everything's going around, dump it. Thoughts. You just write everything down. Thoughts, tasks, emotions, worry, anything that's swirling around your head, no filter. Write it all down. Get it out of your head and onto the paper. Now, you're saying, yeah, but I don't want people seeing something with no filter. burn it, shred it, right? It's just for you. You're not writing a letter. So just get it all out, dump it, dump your brain. Prioritize. Okay, I'm going to expand on this strategy because it is something that I work with people with all the time and I do in my own life. Prioritize. We have busy people have lists. And we have lists for our lists. And we break them down into other lists, right? And so the way our brain works, if your brain is already overwhelmed and you see a list of 20 things, no way. It's too much, right? Your brain is like, nope, not today. And we put it off. So then more things get added to it. We're already feeling like things are overwhelming. A list of 20 or even a list of 5, if we're feeling overwhelmed, is too much. So what I suggest people do is prioritize. So urgent, important, and can wait. Often when I do this with people, some of the things on their list, like if it's June, it doesn't have to be done until fall. But it's on my list. I don't want to forget about it. Okay, but that's something that your overwhelmed brain is looking at all the time. And it's not even needed to be done for another 4 months, right? So first step with your list, prioritize it. Urgent, important, can wait. Then I put that a little bit further. And what I say to people is humans are schedule people, right? If we have a schedule, if we have an appointment, we make sure we do it. I've had clients that have a really hard time getting up. So I book appointments in the morning. When I'm working on that kind of thing, they never miss their 9 o'clock appointment. But when I suggest other things, it's like, yeah, I'm tired. I don't want to get up. But you got up for an appointment. So schedule things into your agenda. And when we see these scheduled events, we're more likely, not everyone, but we're more likely to do them. So once you prioritize, for your weekly schedule, put 1 or 2 things from your list each day. If I look at a list of 20, I'm like, yeah, no. If I look at, Monday I have to do 2 things. Okay. Or 1 thing. Then I'm more apt to get it done. Okay. Same for students or like with work things. I often say to students, don't say I have to do my history assignment, because when we say that, it's too much. When I say I need to do part 1 of my history assignment on Monday, then it's like, okay, that's just part A, part 1, the 4 sentences, whatever it happens to be. And then Tuesday, I'm going to do part 2. Break it down. Declutter that brain. Some lifestyle tweaks, digital detox. I talked about how the digital world is one of our major stressors. Detox from it. Set screen time boundaries. You can only scroll in the morning when you have your coffee. Set those boundaries for that. Have a no scroll hour. One thing that I do with families sometimes is no electronic Wednesdays or whatever day it happens to be. And I did that with one family, and mom said she couldn't believe the difference. They played ping pong. They did board games. The kids weren't irritable. They were engaging. The difference was unbelievable, mom said. They had conversations. One thing that was a rule in my house when my son was growing up, but I think is a good rule, is no phones at the table. Use that time for conversation. Talk to your kids, talk to your family members, share your day. And if you don't have kids at home, do the same thing, right? No electronic Wednesday. I'm going to go out in nature. I'm just going to sit in the back. I'm just shut off the devices. Nature breaks. Even 10 minutes in nature can reset our brains. It can reset your nervous system. 10 minutes in nature. So if you have a backyard, sit in your backyard for 10 minutes. I start my days in the nice weather. I live in Canada. So in the nice weather, I sit on my porch, my screened-in porch, every morning and have my coffee and just sit with my feet up, my head back, feeling the breeze, smelling the outside. I live in town, so out in the country would be even better. But I just sit out there. I hear the birds, my cat's sitting there with me, and that's how I start my day, so that I start my day in a calm manner. And then I get to it. But even 10 minutes of doing that resets my nervous system. And I do it at night too, to reset after a long day at work doing psychotherapy. Movement. So we're talking about, to calm the busy mind. Movement in this sense, it doesn't have to be hardcore exercise. Movement can be just go for a stroll. Walk down by the river if there's a river near you. Go for a stroll. Do some movement, some activity. Just gentle exercise, yoga, stretching. All of those things release mental tension. And then the next thing we have to do is shift our cognitions. So that cognitive shift is really important. One thing that we can do is name the thought. Label the worry, right? So if you get that what if, which most people do, say, oh yeah, that's the what if voice in my head again. Label it. Take the power back from it. I would even suggest to push it a little bit further if it's a what if. Oh yeah, that's that what if voice in my head. Reframe it. What if it works out? What if I do get the job? Whatever it happens to be. And push it a little bit further. What if the worst thing does happen? What tools do I have? How did I manage it last time? And then we go to reframing. So one thing I want you to ask yourself when you do have a thought or a statement is this helpful? Is this thought helpful? Is it going to help me in any way? And then I want you to reframe it. And so part of that is challenging cognitive distortions. A cognitive distortion is an unhelpful pattern of thinking. We have a number of them, and everybody on this planet has cognitive distortions. When we experience disordered anxiety, depression, mental health issues, chronic stress, overwhelm, busy minds, those increase in frequency and intensity. And by that, I mean frequency, they happen more often and we have more of them. And intensity, they're really overpowering. So some examples, quick examples, I'm not going to list all of them because I think there's like 20 of them. But one big example is catastrophizing. When we go to the worst case scenario, that's a cognitive distortion that we can reframe and we can challenge. What facts do I have? What proof do I have that that's going to happen? Another big one, especially for social anxiety, is, or when we're feeling really overwhelmed, judged, we're trying to juggle all of those things and feel like we're dropping some of the balls. I know what they're thinking about me. I know they think I'm a bad mom. I know they think I'm whatever. You have no idea what someone else is thinking unless you have that special talent, which most people don't. That's a cognitive distortion. We project our insecurity onto what other people must be thinking about us. And another one is fortune telling. I know I'm going to fail. I know it's not going to work. You have no idea. It's in the future. And if it's in the future, what can you do differently so that doesn't happen? And another one that's really big is emotional reasoning. It feels bad, so it must be bad. I feel like a bad mom, so I am a bad mom. I feel like I can't juggle all this, so I can't juggle all of this. That's emotional reasoning. We take what we feel and we project it onto what the situation is, and it's distorted. And then mental filtering. When it doesn't matter how your day's going, if it's really positive, one bad thing happens and my day was horrible. You're feeling negative and overwhelmed and something good happens and yeah, whatever, that happened. So often when people come in to see me, I say, I always ask how the time was in between sessions. And so let's say I say, how was last week? It was horrible. Last week was horrible. there's mental filtering happening there, because usually, unless it was like a catastrophic event or something, the whole week isn't usually horrible. But mental filtering takes out any of the good things that happen. So then we go back and we look at Monday. I'm just going to condense it. Let's say I say, how was yesterday? And they say it was a horrible day. I will say, okay, what happened when you woke up? Oh, when I woke up, it wasn't too bad. Okay. What about breakfast? Oh, yeah. I went out for breakfast. It was really good. Okay. What about your drive to work? A little bit of traffic, but actually there wasn't as much as there was. Okay. Lunch? Not bad. Afternoon? Ugh. We had a meeting and our boss was like a tyrant. Okay. What about your drive home? Traffic was more, but it wasn't unmanageable. Okay. And then we go through until bedtime. And then I say, so you had a bad moment yesterday. That meeting was horrible. Your brain made the whole day horrible. And so it's really important to, when you're feeling like everything's just blech and overwhelming and horrible, that you break down your day and to parts and target the part that might have been horrible or difficult. Okay? Support and self-compassion. Talk it out. Find somebody that you trust that you can talk about things to. Sometimes it's not, about, it could be a therapist, it could be a friend, it could be a family member. Sometimes it's not about like talking out like in a therapy sense, but sometimes when we talk things through, I know that sometimes I'll be like thinking about something about what I want to do here at the office, and then I'll talk to my client care coordinator or one of the therapists. And as I'm telling them my thoughts, I figure it out, right? Because I'm not stuck in my head. And it might just be one word that they say. It might be just me saying it out loud and not like with all the other thoughts that can change that. So seek out support. Also support in, you don't have to do everything yourself. We don't have to take it all on. Delegate. Seek out support in that way. Be kind to your mind. Slow it down. Acknowledge the thoughts that are coming. Acknowledge that critic in your head that is saying that you're not good enough, you're not doing enough, you're so-and-so does all of that. They have one extra kid and they're doing all of it. I hear that a lot too, right? Well, so-and-so is managing it. Why can't I? Okay, but you don't know what that person's past like. Maybe you have stuff that has formulated this level of resilience, or maybe they have things happening in their world that you don't, and it helps them out. So to judge yourself and criticize yourself based on what someone else can accomplish or perceive as achieving, you don't know that maybe they're melting down when they're at home. You don't know their level of stress because we don't often show it. So calm that self-critic. Acknowledge when you are using self-deprecating talk and change it. So that is just to calm that busy mind, to slow it down. And now I want to talk about some stress management techniques. And as I said, some of them are repetitive, but the subject is repetitive, but we can do them differently. It's kind of like a mix of like quick resets, how we can just change it, to long-term balance. So some quick relief techniques, again, deep breathing. So I gave you a couple that I do, but the other ones you can do, there's box breathing. Inhale for 4, and you can draw it with your finger if you want. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. So for those of you who are listening to this and not watching it, you draw a box in your mind, right? So across the top is inhale for 4, down the side is hold for 4, across the bottom is exhale for 4, on your way back up on the side is hold for 4. There's figure 8 breathing, where you start in the middle of the 8. The top of the 8 is inhale, the bottom of the 8 is exhale, and you slow your finger down and it slows the breathing down. That will calm your nervous system fast. Progressive muscle relaxation. So you can do progressive muscle relaxation where you sit or lie, hopefully lie if you can, in a comfortable position, and you tense up each muscle group, each body group, body part. So you start with your feet, you tense them up and you relax them. Then your calves, and work your way up to your head and back down. For me, when I do my breathing in between clients, I do a muscle relaxation because remember I said with the stress response, breathing is shallow and muscles are contracting. And that's how we get the stress headache, we call it, that tension up the back of our neck and into our heads. I will tense all my muscles up and then I slowly relax them. I do that in between each client. When you have a stressful job, when you are busy, when you are taking all of whatever on, doing that controls the stress response throughout your day. Guided imagery. This is something that I do. This is something I teach all my clients. Guided imagery is taking yourself to a place that installs calm. So somewhere that you can feel peaceful, you can feel calm, you can feel safe. For me, fire and water are my two that do that. And so you close your eyes and you use your 5 senses to bring you to that place. So I'll just describe some of what I do. So I do this before I go to sleep at night to clear my head when I'm doing my breathing. Different times, if I'm feeling really stressed and overloaded, I will do this. So you lie, you close your eyes, and you first, I said, use your 5 senses. So look around. So let's say if I'm by the water, I'm looking at the lake, ocean, whatever, I'll just use lake. Looking at the lake, I'm looking around at what I see. I see trees, I see water, I see the dock, whatever it happens to be. If it's fire, I see the fire, I see people around the fire. My mecca would be sitting at a bonfire by the lake. Then I would go to feel. So I feel the warmth of the fire on my face. I feel my feet on the ground. I feel my hands running in the water. I feel the cool breeze down by the water. Sound, I hear the loons. I hear a boat. I hear the water hitting the dock after a boat comes. I hear the crackling of the fire. Somebody has a guitar. I hear singing. I hear laughter. Smell, I smell the fire, smell the water. Maybe someone's barbecuing. As you're sitting by the water, I smell the barbecue. Taste, I'm having a drink or I'm having something to eat. And you really think about those things and it brings you to that place. I often talk clients through it. And I might actually do a video for TikTok or Instagram where I do a guided imagery and just use the fire or water and talk people through it. That is really helpful. That will clear your mind after a busy day because when you use your 5 senses, that's what we take information in with. When you use those 5 senses, your brain feels like you're there if you can really connect with it. Aromatherapy, scents like lavender, eucalyptus, they can trigger parts of your brain that elicit calm. And they can trigger those relaxation experiences that we have. So cognitive and emotional strategies. So those were quick relief techniques. Oh, one that I want to add to is cold. When in DBT, we use cold as a distress tolerance technique. If you are feeling really overwhelmed and stressed out, splash ice cold water on your face. Hold an ice cube. Put an ice cube or an ice pack on your forehead, on your neck, on your wrist, the sensitive areas, and that can help snap us out of it. It hits the nerve endings and it can help. That's a quick relief technique. And then we look at cognitive and emotional strategies. So again, mindful meditation. Even 10 minutes of mindful meditation can reduce cortisol levels. And I had said that with the stress response, cortisol and adrenaline are flooding in with chronic stress. So we want to reduce those cortisol levels, and that also helps with emotional regulation. Again, reframing, challenging. So before I was talking about busy mind in the moment, this is, I'm feeling really stressed. I need to reframe. And one part of reframing, other than challenging the cognitive distortions, is changing our narrative, changing how we word things. So when we are saying, I need to, I have to, I should, we're not in control. Even if it's something that we're doing, right? If we say, I'm going to, I want to, I choose to, that takes back our power. We're choosing to do it. And often clients will say things like, I have to finish my degree. I have to. And they're feeling a lot of overwhelm with that. And sometimes using the cognitive behavior therapy approach, I will say, then don't do it. Quit school. And they're like, well, no, I want to get this degree. I want to do this. Oh, so it's your choice. You want to. Let's change it to I want to finish my degree, not I have to finish my degree. Just changing that, reframing that can actually reduce some of the stress that you're feeling about it, because now you're in control. You have a choice. You don't have to do it. You want to do it. And gratitude journaling is another thing. Sometimes I have difficulty with the word gratitude, only because I didn't used to. But I've had a couple of clients who have said to me, when I said about, we talked about gratitude journaling, they said, yeah, but going through what I'm going through right now, I don't feel a lot of gratitude. Fair, right? Valid. Not everybody feels like gratitude. One client said, I do know I have blessings in my life, so can I do a blessing journal? Of course. So I've changed it up a little bit. And instead of, journaling gratitude, at the end of your day, come up with 3 things that brought a smile to your face. 3 things that were good that day or okay that day. So if you wake up and the sun's shining and that's a good thing, okay, there's one of them. If you didn't have to go to work that day and that's a good thing, there's 2 of them, right? It doesn't have to be these, profound experiences that we need to be grateful for. Things that put a smile on your face, bring some joy. In a world where you're so bogged down and you're so busy, we need to find some of the joy, simple pleasures in life. And then we have something that we call lifestyle anchors. Okay. And so those lifestyle anchors are always exercise, nutrition, and sleep hygiene. And we've talked a little bit about movement. This isn't just going for that leisurely walk. This isn't just being more active. This is exercise. So an exercise program, it doesn't have to be 7 days a week, 3 days a week. As long as you're active, some of the other days, movement actually releases endorphins, which helps moderate mood, which slows things down and provides more energy for us. Our nutrition, a balanced meal with whole grains, healthy fats, protein will boost our energy, will help us with clarity of mind. And we need to really be aware of excess caffeine and sugar spikes. Those actually give us brain fog, or just feel the caffeine can make you feel like overstimulated and not so clear. It actually makes you feel more anxious. So we want to look at that. And then if you think back about what I said with a major stressor being our health, right? When we're going to the fast food places, when we're just throwing something in the microwave, those usually are not protein, whole grains, whole foods, healthy fat, rich. And then sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene means a consistent bedtime routine. Shut off the devices about 30 minutes before. Same time every night. Do the routine. Try not to spend the afternoon reading in bed or watching TV in bed, those kinds of things, because it can trick the brain to think that bed is for that and not for sleep. Have a bath every night before you go to bed if it helps to calm, or a shower. Sometimes a shower can actually wake you up more, but have this routine. Read a little bit before you go to bed if it helps to make you tired. And then we have social and environmental support. So connect with other people. Talk to a friend, a therapist, a family member. Get support from other people. One thing I would add too is that sometimes we think that there's family members that we should talk to or friends that we should talk to. If that person is normally judgmental, as close as you may be, it might not be a good idea to talk to that person, because we're looking for support, not telling us what to do or judging us. Set boundaries. Learn to say no. And I know how hard that is to do. We need to set those boundaries. Every time we say yes to somebody else when we're already feeling overwhelmed means we're saying no to something else, and that's usually ourselves. And people pleasing makes us say yes all the time because we don't want people to feel bad. We don't want them to think badly of us. We don't want them to think we're a bad friend or spouse or family member, whatever it happens to be. and declutter your space. I know that people joke about this and, like a cluttered desk is a cluttered mind. Yep, it is. And a cluttered house is a cluttered mind. You need to, if there's a lot of clutter all around, it actually can impact your stress levels because it's just, there's no space, right? Decluttering things, organizing things can actually help alleviate some of this chronic stress. All right. And the last one is building resilience and long-term balance. So again, same type of categories. And one thing that I want people to understand with all of these is that it's not a one-stop shop, right? It's not do these and it's going to work for everyone. When I teach grounding in sessions, I have a sheet that's like front and back. And I say to my clients that, there's a whole bunch of grounding techniques on here because everybody's different. And what might work for somebody won't work with another person. I have to do cognitive stuff. I have to engage my brain to ground myself. I have clients who need to touch things, need to feel different textures, and that grounds them. So it depends what works for you. So all of these strategies that I'm talking about with the 3 different categories, I want you to take what works for you. Again, the foundational habits, regular physical activity. And again, we had talked about taking that leisurely walk or just yoga or stretching. And then we talked about exercise. This I'm talking about something called exercise snacks, right? Throughout your day, if you just go and do that, 5-10 minute burst walk, brisk walk, if you're at work, at lunch, walk around the block. If we all of a sudden just start doing some jumping jacks and different things to get our adrenaline, our endorphins flowing to energize ourselves, that can help. Again, balanced nutrition, a diet. So this is long term, right? So now we're talking about our daily routine going forward, not managing the busy mind. This is how we can improve our mental health and balance that busy lifestyle to maintain this balance going forward for years. So we talked about regular physical activity and balanced nutrition. So again, whole foods, healthy fats, fiber, protein, water. We need to hydrate too. That's really important. And restorative sleep. I had said that we need all of our sleep. We need all of the stages of sleep. We rejuvenate, we heal in our sleep. Kids grow in their sleep. So that restorative sleep, not just getting 4 hours. I know people that say, oh no, I just need 4 hours a night. No, you don't. That's something we tell ourselves. In order to go through all of the stages more than once or go through all of the stages in a healthy manner, we need more than 4 hours sleep. Mindfulness and meditation. So all of the things that we talked about, and this is a daily practice or multiple times a week for the duration as part of your self-care. Yoga and breath work. So breath work isn't breathing. Breath work is something different. And when we do yoga and we do breath work, then we combine movement and breathing in that. And connecting and just slowing everything down in those moments. Emotional and cognitive wellness, positive self-talk. If it helps, every morning, write down something positive about yourself. Something, I made my child laugh today. I made my partner laugh today. I made all the lunches last night and I have 5 minutes. Good job, right? Whatever it is, change your narrative. We are all doing, or most of us, I would say all, are doing the best we can. And the judgment that we hear from other people and then we start saying it ourselves, the one we're never escaping it. Change your narrative. We all mess up. We're not perfect. We need to take that perfectionism down a notch and just do the best that we can. Again, noting 3 things, so that gratitude or blessing or positive event, noting 3 things each day. Some people are like, I can't do that every single day, Christine. Okay, that's fine. But do it regularly, not once a week. Do it maybe every second day. Even if it's just a mental note, you're driving home from work and it's like, oh yeah, I finished that thing today. Or acknowledging it's like 6 o'clock and the sun's still shining. Any of those things, that's still gratitude stuff. Okay. And then creative expression. So whether it's art or music, building things, writing, any of those things can slow down the busy mind. They're really positive outlets for processing and expressing emotions, processing thoughts. I know that when I am doing my crafting that I do, or I am baking or I'm cooking, I am really in my thoughts, and not in a negative way. I'm processing things, and sometimes I just focus on the textures and everything, but I'm in my world, and I solve all the problems in the world when I'm doing this, right? And not in a negative way, not in an overwhelming way. It gives me time to slow down and just think without making decisions and planning. And it's just, I'm thinking about what I'm doing, but I'm also thinking about my week. I'm thinking about my day. I'm thinking about the weekend. I'm thinking about my grandkids. But it's good thinking that I'm doing. And social and environmental support, meaningful connections, regular check-ins with friends. One of my best friends since we were 5, I did a speech at her 50th birthday party, and I said, and she never knew this, but she knows that I'm really busy, and she's busy too. And I will get a text message each week, and it's just checking in. How are things? And she never knew how much those check-ins meant to me, because we do get so busy and involved in our lives. And she just went through a really horrible time and a significant loss in her life. And every day, every morning, I would say, not trying to be a pest, I'm just doing my check-in. And I know that she appreciated that. I know that she was feeling overwhelmed, but it's just checking in, connect with people. Those meaningful connections with friends, family, support. It could be a therapist. Support groups, they can buffer against loneliness, overwhelm. Support groups can also, you can see that how many people are going through the same thing you are. And it's not to say, oh, I shouldn't complain. It's to say, wow, I'm not alone in this. Again, digital boundaries, limit screen time, limit screen time, doom scrolling. There is a lot of negativity on social media. Scroll past it. Don't get into heated debates that I see all over. If you don't like what someone's saying or doing, scroll past it. Sometimes people are just doing that to instigate. And when you go into it, then you are now giving what little brain power you have left, because you're leading such a busy life, into this person's negativity. Scroll past. I often hear, yeah, but then that's letting them get away with it. Let them, right? There's one thing standing up for yourself. There's one thing standing up for what you believe in. On social media, in my experience, people that have these really controversial posts are trying to engage people in battle. And so you engaging and saying your piece isn't going to change what they're doing. It's actually going to fuel them to do it more. It's like they're like, just got another one, right? So you don't need that. Scroll past. Nature time. Spending time outdoors, going for a walk, sitting in nature, going to the park, sitting by, like I said, water, nature time. And then for long-term balance, those mindful shifts, again, reframing, but this time we're going to reframe setbacks as growth opportunities. So instead of saying, I couldn't juggle all of those things, it's like, okay, but I did learn, I can't juggle everything because I'm one person. I do know what I can handle now, right? So reframing it, instead of it looking as a setback, it's an opportunity for growth and learning. Again, practice self-compassion as a regular activity. Embrace imperfection. I know that there's people that are going, yeah, okay, Christine. I am not going to embrace an imperfection, right? I get it, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, But I also am the first one to say, whoa, I'm a hot mess today, or I totally dropped the ball on that. And that is something as I grow and I get older and I work on myself with, I couldn't do that when I was younger. However, perfection does not exist. Perfection is whatever that person perceives it to be. Your perfection might be somebody else's can't even manage it, right? Your perfection, somebody else's perfection might be your half-assing it. So it's what you perceive it to be. And the problem with perfection is that we just keep raising the bar and we don't cut ourselves any slack. So embrace those imperfections. Resilient people don't fear mistakes. They don't fear challenges and growth. Change that mindset. Going forward, focus on what you can control and not what you can't control. If it has to do with anybody else's behavior, you cannot control that. 150% guaranteed. You can guide, you can tell them, you can express how it makes you feel, you cannot control someone else's behavior. Let that go. You can stand up for yourself. You don't have to condone it, but you have to accept the fact that you can't control it. There are things that we can control. There are things that we can kind of control, and there are things that we can't control. Focus on what you can control, even if it is your own reaction. You can always control that. So anxiety and depression and overwhelm often comes from what we can't control, trying to control what we can't control. And then again with the gratitude, but build a gratitude ritual, like I had said, each day, but also building on that, notice small wins. It doesn't have to be perfection, right? A small win. If you can pull those out throughout your day, that is going to help clear your mind and bring some of that joy. Challenge those negative thoughts. We need to challenge the negative thoughts. In other podcasts, I've talked about Socratic questioning. What evidence do I have that proves that? What evidence do I have that contradicts it? What are facts? What are opinion? Pull some of those out. Nurture strong relationships. Social support is key. Ask for help. We can't do everything on our own. And I know that I still struggle with that, asking for help. I am very independent. I've always had to be. And so I will do things, I will get hurt doing them before I ask for help. And that's something that I'm really working on. But we have to ask for help and delegate when we're feeling overwhelmed, especially. And help others. Volunteer or help others if you can. I'm talking about like taking some, saying no and taking a step back when we're feeling really busy and overwhelmed. If you can volunteer or help others, try that. And then prioritize rest and recovery. So sleep, nutrition, exercise. Create meaning. So align your daily actions with your values and long-term purposes. Okay. So the actions that you are doing each day, align them with something that is of value to you instead of just doing things. And spend time with people who energize you. When we spend time with people that are really negative, it's like we have a cloud over us, right? When I spend time with people that are really, that energize me, it's like contagious, right? You start to feel that. So try to surround yourself with people like that when you're feeling really overwhelmed. Okay. So that is what a busy mind is. That is how our lifestyle, society creates this busy lifestyle that we have, chronic stress and different ways to manage it, short-term stress management, and going forward, our day-to-day routine. Now I have a couple of questions that we've received from our audience. And the first one, so I wrote down some answers, so I may be looking at my the answers a little bit, but I want to make sure that my answers are very accurate if someone's asking it, right? So the first question was, how do I know if I'm just busy or I'm actually burned out? Good question. From a psychotherapist lens, being busy means you're active, maybe even stretched, okay? But you're still functioning with purpose and energy. So busy is you're active, you might be stretched with things, but you're still functioning. You still have energy. Burnout, and I don't think people really understand what burnout is, right? Burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion. It doesn't go away with a good night's sleep. Burnout is like running on empty. You're still moving, but there's no fuel. There's no fuel left. So if you're noticing chronic exhaustion, emotional detachment, loss of joy in things, loss of motivation that you used to love, it's time to pause and reassess. That's burnout. And I just have 3 different differences between just being busy and burned out. Busy, you feel challenged, but you're engaged. You may be tired, but you still care. Burned out, you feel detached, cynical, or emotionally numb. Your motivation is gone, and even small tasks are way too overwhelming. Busy, you might skip a workout or stay up late, but you bounce back from it. Burnout, you wake up exhausted no matter how much you sleep. You may experience headaches, stomach issues, or frequent illnesses. Your immune system becomes compromised. Busy, you can still focus and make decisions, even if you're juggling a lot. So you have a lot on the go, but you can still focus. You can still make those decisions. Burned out, your concentration tanks. Decision making feels impossible, and you withdraw from people or you lash out unexpectedly. All of a sudden, you just snap at somebody. That's burnout. So you can see the differences. And from a psychotherapist perspective, those are the things that I look for in a client when they tell me how busy they are, when I start asking questions that kind of revolve around this so I can determine whether, it's burnout or it's busy. And often I'll say, you are completely burnt out. And they will look at me like, no, I can handle it. And then we start to go through some of these and some of the overload symptoms or signs. And they're like, yep, I'm burnt out. What happens with the brain, especially when you're burnt out or there's been a lot of chaos in your life. So chaos doesn't mean, what we always think of chaos. Chaos can be that busy mind, that really busy lifestyle. When your brain is used to chaos, it becomes used to chaos. That's its familiar place, right? That's what it knows. It's uncomfortable, but that's what it knows. When you try to rest, refocus, your brain creates chaos because that's what it knows. So if we don't use these techniques to, the long-term ones that I talked about and the ones in the moment too, your brain gets used to that chaos and it becomes harder and harder to rest and relax. Doesn't mean you can't focus. We work on those strategies, but just to understand, some people will say, I'm just starting to feel better. And now my brain keeps bringing up all these things that cause me stress. Yep, because it's trying to bring up chaos for you to deal with. All right. So the second question that I had was, what's the best way to say no without feeling selfish? So first thing I want to say is saying no is not selfish. Self-care, which is saying no and setting boundaries as part of self-care, is not selfish. It's saying no is a boundary that protects your energy, your time, and your mental health. I had said, and I remind clients of this, that every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else if you're feeling overwhelmed, and that's usually yourself. And I'd said that previously, but so some ways that you can say no without feeling selfish. First thing is to change that mindset, that saying no is selfish, because it's not. It's setting your boundary. But use clear, compassionate language. You don't need a long explanation. You don't have to, a lot of times, especially people pleasers will go on with 5 minutes of why I have to say no. If you give a long explanation, it actually opens up negotiation. They will try to negotiate. So a couple of things you can say: I appreciate you thinking of me, but I can't commit to that right now. That's respectful. It's not, nope, can't, right? The next one is, that's not something I have capacity for at this moment. You can add, but thank you for thinking of me, or that sort of thing. Some people will say, I can't do it at this moment, but try again next, or maybe another time. Take that out, because now you're just opening yourself up for them to ask you again. If you feel ready at some point, you can offer to help people, but saying not right now, but maybe another time opens up negotiation for another time. And then you have to go through saying no again. Manage the guilt. Don't obey it. So guilt is an instinctual response. It's a natural response to stimuli, and especially for people pleasers. So it's not a reliable compass, though, right? Because I had already said that we often feel guilt for things that we're not harming anybody. What I want you to do is acknowledge the guilt and then align yourself with your values. Yeah, I feel guilty because of. A couple of episodes ago, I talked about the messages we receive. That's probably why, before the age of 8, that's probably why you're feeling guilty. So align, acknowledge, and then align with your values anyway. And practice assertiveness skills. The broken record. That can be annoying if you do it in a way that, nope, I can't right now. But nope, I can't right now, right? But you can calmly repeat your no without getting pulled into the debate. If they keep saying, well, what if we shortened it? What if, thank you for the invite, or thank you for asking, but I really can't right now. You continue to say that. You can word it differently if you want. And fogging, so that's acknowledging the other person's feelings without changing your stance. I hear that it's important to you, and I still can't do that. I hear what you're saying. I'm really feeling overwhelmed right now, or I don't have the capacity to do that right now. Right? So you acknowledge them, and then you still stand by your value. And then anchor in your values. So when your no is rooted in your values, so like protecting your health, your finances, your family, your time, your creative energy, if we can root it in that, it's easier for us to say no. So if somebody asks me to do something, but I have plans with my friends or my grandchildren or my son, it's easier for me to say no, right? If you root it in the reasons. So come up with these values that you have and align your no with that. There's a purpose behind it. And then that's changing the mindset that you're not rejecting the person. You are actually honoring your priorities. Okay, so the busy mind and strategies to manage it and understanding what it is. Like I said at the beginning, we live in a very fast-paced, always-on, instant gratification society. And we can get caught up on that. Most people, most adults I know do. So think about some of the overload signs that I talked about. See where they fit in your life. Practice some of the strategies in the moment and daily for long-term balance, and see how it works for you. We really need to slow things down to maintain our mental and physical health. So next, I'm very excited to talk about our next episode, our next podcast. I am inviting 2 of my therapists that work for me here, and they specialize with teens, children, teens, youth. One of them you've already met, Jade, and she came and talked about childhood anxiety. And the other is Erin, our occupational therapist, who is also qualified to perform the active psychotherapy. And they are going to come in and talk with me about how to talk to teens. So building the bridges across the generations, ways that I know after raising a child, we often talk about raising a teenagers, like nailing Jello to the wall. It can be difficult. So let's learn how to talk to them. And that's it for today. You can help us out by following us on Spotify and subscribing to us on YouTube. And you can also check out some tips and tricks, Mental Health Mondays, and all sorts of mental health information, getting to know our therapists and our practice a bit more on TikTok and Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Before each podcast, each week, we post stories about asking our audience members for questions if they have any questions that they want us to address in our podcast. So please feel free to reach out, reply to the story, the post, send us a DM, and ask those questions. If you don't want to put it out there for everyone to see, feel free to send a DM and ask us the questions, and we will answer them. The topic is given, and we'll answer them during the podcast. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and take care of you.